Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 11 preview. I'll be talking about some of the key players you should be looking to buy and sell in your FPL teams. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I thought we'd actually start the conversation today around bonus points, which isn't something I normally focus on in a lot of detail, but I recently had a chat with a guy called Baker from Above Average FPL Podcast, who is brilliant with bonus points on my podcast, FPL Therapy. And I found it really interesting. And I am noticing very much so this season, maybe even more so than in previous seasons, there are certain players that are bonus points magnets. They get a single assist or a single goal, and they can be coming away with 2 or 3 bonus points. Some of these players even pick up bonus points sometimes without returns. I mean, Cole Palmer got a bonus point the other day when it felt like he didn't do very much, didn't get a goal or assist, but still come away with a bonus point. So I genuinely think this, we're talking about fine details here and fine margins. We're not talking about, you're not going to gain 300 points in a season by focusing on bonus points. But if you do have a 50-50 debate between two players, I do wonder if a player is more likely to pick up bonus points might be enough to make me lean towards them. So a lot of people have found this useful. Last week I said Cunha's brilliant for bonus points and Salah's brilliant for bonus points, and people went and brought them in. And lo and behold, they both picked up bonus points with only a single return. So let's have a bit of a chat today around bonus. I'll try not to make this section too nerdy and too long. So obviously we know that players pick up bonus points. They can pick up to 3 bonus points, then 2 bonus points, and then 1 bonus point. And that is in addition to any other things they do in the game. But what we also have is something called baseline bonus. And what baseline bonus is essentially their bonus points in the system minus those decisive actions. So take away the things like goals, assists, clean sheets that obviously heavily contribute towards bonus points. That's their baseline bonus. It's almost like their bonus points potential. You can say, right, this is their baseline, this is their potential. If you then add a return, a clean sheet, assist, or goal on top of that, this is what they're likely to end on. So players with a higher baseline bonus, it doesn't mean they're going to pick up bonus every single time, but it means when they get a return, we're more likely to see them get bonus points. And people always say, I don't understand how this player's picked up bonus points. So I've literally just gone over to the official site, fantasy.premierleague.com/help/rules. This is the bonus point system. And when you actually start to understand it, why players pick up bonus becomes a lot more clear. So we know that players get stuff for appearing, obviously, and also for scoring goals. And what people might not know is forwards do get more in the bonus point system for scoring a goal. It's why forwards often come away with 9 points with a single goal, because they are rewarded for doing what they should be doing. Assists are actually rewarded equally, so 9 for each player. And then when we get into the other stuff, this is when we're talking about sort of baseline bonus. So successful open play cross, 1. If a player's making loads of crosses, great. Creating a big chance is 3. For every 2 clearances, for every 3 recoveries, they're picking up stuff. Key passes, successful tackles. A lot of midfielders that are, you could call like busybodies, making crosses, making passes, tackling, recovering. They're the players that are often very, very high up in the bonus point system. The 2 changes this year, which we'll discuss when we look at certain players, which has made it so imperative to own certain players, I would say, is they now gain 1 in the bonus point system for every foul won. So players that do often draw fouls, they're picking up extra 5-6 bonus points in a single game. And then in the system, that is. And then shots on target, 2. So if a player's taken 4 or 5 shots on target in a given game, which is quite a high amount, but that is massively helping them in the bonus point system. Equally, for players like in the past Darwin Nunez, you can lose bonus points for having a shot off target. So I'm not going to go through the bonus point. I mean, go and check it out for yourself if you want to understand it in more detail. But yes, what this essentially means is that we can work out a baseline bonus for every single player. And here are the players with the best baseline bonuses in each position. I have excluded players that have no real fantasy value. So if they've got really limited minutes, or they're playing for a team that you might not want to own that asset, or, more importantly, they're like a defensive midfielder that just aren't going to get attacking returns. Because once again, baseline bonus means nothing if you don't add one of those decisive actions that will turn it into actual bonus points. So to save me going through the players one by one and explaining why they might be in particular very good for baseline bonus, feel free to just pause the video, smile now. There you go. You can pause the video and just maybe have a look at the players. Like if you're considering bringing some of these in, great. They're in the top 10 for baseline bonus in terms of desirable assets in FPL in their position. But maybe if the player that you're looking to bring in isn't here, feel free to jump over to somewhere like Fantasy Football Hub. There is a link down below in the description for a 7-day free trial where you can look at which players are good for baseline bonus. Or maybe if you've got a 50-50 and you're choosing between, I don't know, like Raul Jimenez and Wissa, it might be that you just think Wissa is slightly better, but the fact that Raul Jimenez is 4th and Wissa is nowhere to be seen on this list, that might make you lean towards Raul Jimenez. It was one of the main reasons that I did look to bring him in, because I know if he gets a return, that is often coupled with bonus points. So, there are a few players that I want to pick out. With goalkeepers, it's largely safe. So, if a goalkeeper makes a lot of saves, they tend to be pretty good for bonus, hence why Flecken is there, hence why Sanchez is in the top 3 as well. For defenders, Gvardiol is just so advanced and so fantastic with his passing. He's creative. His shots often tend to be on target. He does draw fouls himself. Gvardiol is so technically gifted and so good on the ball that it means that he is often very high for baseline. We saw the other day that he got a clean sheet and 3 bonus points. This is why. So Gvardiol, it makes premiums even better when you know that they don't even need to have an attacking return. If they get a clean sheet, they often come away with bonus as well. So Gvardiol is very high baseline bonus. That's a massive positive for him. Rico Lewis isn't even on this list. It's about 9. Another player that I wanted to mention was just Lewis Hall. Very, very creative, which is the main reason he is 3rd for baseline bonus for defenders. So if you're looking for a cheap defender, we're actually going to discuss cheap defenders at the end of the video. Lewis Hall would be right up there for me because Newcastle aren't a terrible defence. They've got a nice run of fixtures and he's very creative, good for baseline. The Liverpool defenders, they're all in the top 10, but this is actually a drop-off of what we've seen in recent years. We've had points in recent seasons where Trent and Robertson, due to their creativity and just what they do on the ball, they've been as high as like 18, 19 for baseline bonus. Right now, they've dropped off, but they are still relatively high in terms of overall defenders. And then, yeah, Ola Aina as well. He's been picking up bonus points left, right, and centre with these clean sheets, and he's got very decent baseline bonus too. In terms of midfielders, a lot of the premiums rank towards the top. So Saka, Son, Palmer right up there in the top 5. Not only are premiums good because they get attacking returns, but they're also good because they do a lot of the actions that contribute towards bonus as well. Salah is actually sat in 10th. Salah's been picking up so many bonus points this season. And it is the addition of points in the bonus system for fouls won, shots on target. He's increased creativity. He gets so many key passes on a consistent basis. Even things like open play crosses. Salah actually crosses the ball a fair amount too. So he does a lot which contributes well. I know he's only sat in 10th here, but it is higher than the baseline bonus for the defenders, as you can see here. There are no real forwards on the list that are picking up high baseline bonus. So with Salah, 14.71 is very decent baseline bonus, but because a lot of the other Liverpool players don't necessarily contribute that highly in the bonus point system as well, he's often picking up 2 or 3 if he gets that single return. So this is an increase for Salah, and that's still very good, but it's not quite as high as the likes of a Bukayo Saka, Son, Palmer, at least on a consistent basis. But all of the players on this list, they're very good in the fact that if they do get a return, you might expect 2 or 3 bonus points. For the forwards, it's remarkable how clear Cunha is. And we've been speaking about this constantly, and he is one of the players that has sparked this discussion. When Cunha returns, bonus points are imminent. He got 1 assist at the weekend, gets a bonus point. In the last 2 times he scored, he's got 9, so 3 bonus points, and he's been very clear on the bonus point system. His baseline bonus is 15.34. If you couple that with a goal, which is 24 points for a forward, you're looking at 39 to 40 in the bonus point system if he scores a single goal. To put that into perspective, Palmer picked up a bonus point in the Man United game with 23 in the bonus point system. So Cunha, without any returns, is already close to potentially picking up a bonus point in some games. You add an assist and a goal, or just one of those, he's often very good. And you can see here, no forwards get close. Ndiaye is in 2nd here, but he doesn't actually get any returns. Nketiah is not starting on a consistent basis. Raul Jimenez would be the next forward that you'd probably look at there with 10.19. So there's like a 5-point difference in the bonus point system between Cunha and Raul. After that, it then drops off further, and this is roughly what you would expect from a forward, somewhere between 7 and 8. So Wood, Jackson, Strand, Larsen, Haaland, Welbeck, Isak, all around sort of that 7 to 9 points range. And Strand Larsen, we're going to discuss Cunha and Strand Larsen in the next section, but Cunha and Strand Larsen, one big advantage of Cunha is if they both return in a given game, especially if it's the same, so both get an assist or both get a goal, it's very, very rare that Strand Larsen will be ahead of Cunha on the bonus point system. Obviously, if Strand Larsen scores, as we saw before, and Cunha gets the assist, then there will be a disparity because you get 24 points in the system for a goal versus 9 for an assist. So I'm going to leave it there because this is getting incredibly nerdy. But you can check out baseline bonus using the link down below to Fantasy Football Hub. You can get 30% off or a 7-day free trial. Go to their Opta stats section. You can filter by baseline bonus. I genuinely think it's something that can positively contribute towards our decision making, but it's such a small part of it. Because like I said, If Cunha is brilliant for bonus points, but Raul Jimenez and Wood score 4 more goals than him in the next 6 games, bonus points don't matter. So it's only if you think there is a really tight decision between two players, maybe you start to lean to the one that has more bonus points potential. Let me know if that was useful discussion for you, and let's now discuss some more traditional fantasy stuff. So guys, let's discuss Strand Larsen versus Cunha. A lot of people are asking about that this week, trying to work out, is it worth trying to find and spend that extra 1.1 million now going for Cunha instead of Strand Larsen? So hopefully I can help you with that decision. But just straight up, before I even try and compare them, they are the 2 best forwards to bring in for me right now based on their price bracket. So if you're looking around 5.5, Strand Larsen for me is the best forward to bring in. And if you have up to 7 million, Cunha is the best forward to bring in. So at their own respective price brackets, they are the 2 best forwards to buy for me this week. And it does just come down to the fixtures. It's very, very rare in FPL that you will have a team that have good fixtures for like 8 or 9 game weeks with not a single really bad fixture in there. You'll often get like a little spell of 2 or 3 games. Like Man United, we'll discuss when we look at Bruno a bit later. 3 really good games, then it falls off a cliff. Or you might have like 2 good games, a couple of tough games, then a couple of good games. Wolves literally, like their fixtures are just unbelievable now, right up until game week 18. You've got the fixtures up until 15. In 16, they play Ipswich at home, and in 17, they play Leicester away. It's just a crazy run of fixtures. And obviously this week, the entry point against Southampton at home, you really can't get much better in terms of longevity of fixtures. So I feel like if you bring in Strand Larsen or Cunha now, they not only serve you well this week against Southampton at home, but also in the long term. Let's break down their data first, and then talk about some of the stuff in and around that. So in terms of minutes, Strand Larsen's actually averaged more minutes per game this season, but do bear in mind that the first game, Cunha played like 33 minutes because he came back from an injury, and then the second game, 67 minutes for that reason. Since then, Cunha has played 90 minutes in every game bar one, which was the City game, and I think that was game state dependent. He'd done a lot of running in that game. So I still maintain that Cunha's minutes are better than Strand Larsen, but both of them are starting at every available game for Wolves. So they're both pretty nailed on. In terms of kind of FPL points, expected FPL points, Cunha's definitely coming out on top at the moment. FPL points slightly higher, expected FPL points also slightly higher as well, but there's not a lot in it. And actually, the goal threat is slightly higher for Strand Larsen if we're looking at non-penalty expected goals per 90. So if we're saying who is more likely to get a goal, it's extremely equal in a given game. Now, there are a few nuances here. They've had very, very tough fixtures up until this point. You might say that in the easier fixtures, maybe we're expecting Cunha's data to skyrocket because it might suit him more. Or you might say, actually, you think the easier fixtures might suit Strand Larsen more, and we might see an increase there. The other thing is, whether they play a 3 at the back or a 4 at the back. And even if they play a 3 at the back, they can play like a 3-5-2, or they can play more of a 3-4-3 with 2 sort of inside forwards. So Wolves can do a lot of things that might make Strand Larsen or Cunha better or worse. And so there are a few things that you need to break apart. But just at face value, just at a really artificial level, superficial level, I should say, 0.26 non-penalty expected goals per 90 for Strand Larsen and 0.24 for Cunha. So very, very equal in terms of goal threat. So there is a little bit of Strand Larsen propaganda for you. Where that propaganda then ends is everything else. So expected assist is 4 times higher for Cunha. So he's got really decent creativity for a forward. Strand Larsen doesn't have any, 0.05 for him. So Cunha definitely more creative. In terms of big chance involvement as well, Cunha is involved in more big chances per 90 at 1.13 to Strand Larsen's 0.87. So there's 2 advantages there. Unfortunately for me, it keeps going. Cunha's also on almost every set piece, especially in-swinging set pieces. You can see by the heat map as well, he's taken a lot of in-swinging corners, which is another route to points. We think that Cunha is still on penalties as well. We don't know that for sure, but Strand Larsen hasn't really taken penalties in his career. So Strand Larsen almost definitely won't. It's probably Cunha, Hwang, or Sarabia, depending who's on the pitch. So I would expect Cunha to take the next penalty for Wolves. On top of that, Cunha's baseline bonus is also incredibly high, as we just spoke about. So really the only massive positives in terms of Strand Larsen for me is that he is a proper number 9 that will get goals. Like, he reminds me of Chris Wood in the sense that he's not really operating outside of that number 9 role. So he's always in the right place to score goals. His goal threat is marginally higher than Cunha, and he is 1.1 million cheaper. He is fantastic value at 5.6, like a really good option. But when you tell me Cunha has the same goal threat, basically, much higher creativity, big chance involvement, corners, some direct free kicks as well, penalties, and higher bonus points potential. And I think he's more nailed. Yes, for me, Cunha is worth the extra 1.1 million. But if that extra 1.1 million gets you a massive upgrade, or it means like you don't have to sell Saka, whereas if you want to go for Cunha, you have to sell Saka or something like that, then I would just go for Strand Larsen. Hopefully that's helpful. So to recap, Cunha is worth the extra money, but at his price point, Strand Larsen, for me, is still the best forward at that price. So two players that will start to enter our thinking again very, very soon are Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, who actually start to go into a slightly better fixture run. And I just think in general, Newcastle have looked a lot better recently, especially Alexander Isak. I think he struggled at the start of the season, even before the injury, just wasn't looking quite right. And Newcastle were struggling to find him. But in the last few games, there has been a dramatic improvement. I mean, in the last 3 games, Isak's had 12 shots, 5 big chances, and he's averaging 0.83 non-penalty expected goal involvement. So the last 3 have been highly impressive for him. And Anthony Gordon's performances are just super consistent. He's had a couple of price falls as well. I think they could be really, really nice options if you can afford them. They are at tricky price points, though. Like, for a lot of people, they've got Haaland or maybe another option you've got there and like 2 cheap forwards. And in the midfield, like for me, I've got 2 premiums, Mbeumo, Rodgers and Dibbling. And maybe that's just my specific midfield setup, but I'm not going to sell Mbeumo because I think he's fantastic. I'm not going to sell my 2 premiums. And to get up from a Rodgers or Dibbling, I've got to find a lot of money from elsewhere. So that's the only concern, is that they're at very tricky price points. But the next 3 fixtures aren't bad. Forest isn't a good fixture, though. I've put it as green because I just literally copied the FPL site, but that is not a green fixture by any means. West Ham is a really nice fixture at the moment, especially at home. Palace, it's difficult to know what Palace will turn up, but let's see how they perform. But overall, as a 3, it's not terrible. They then go into Liverpool, which isn't great. Brentford, which should be a green fixture. And then after the Brentford game, it's Leicester at home, Ipswich away. I do wonder whether the slightly better entry point might be game week 15. But if you're looking to bring in a player now and you have like Alexander Isak, you have to remember, I would say, for me, he was the closest to essential that a player has ever been for game week 1. I didn't build a single, and I literally not one draft in pre-season that didn't have Isak. Because from what we saw last season and on his day, we've seen that in recent weeks, he is one of the best FPL assets in the game. So if you can find a way to get Isak in when he's not that highly owned and when not that many people are looking at him, I don't mind it. But yeah, the next 3 overall I'd say are okay. Then Liverpool, but from 15 and beyond, for that little run of Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich, I'm going to be extremely tempted by Alexander Isak. In terms of the data overall this season, it's a little bit of a drop-off for both of them, to be honest. So Gordon's averaging 0.39 non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90, which, yeah, is a drop-off. We saw about 0.45, 0.5 for most spells last season. Alexander Isak, 0.57, which is still extremely good, but not as good as we saw again from last season. And if you look across the last 3 weeks, the man can, on a consistent basis, average like 0.7, 0.8 XG in a game. And that's what he can do. Like 1.2 big chance involvement per 90 for Isak. Gordon's is quite high at 0.93, but he had 2 penalties, remember that. And obviously he won't be on penalties now. If I were to like prioritize one, if you'd say I could have one of these in my team, Alexander Isak is always the FPL asset for me. The penalties, the goal threat, I think he's an exceptionally good finisher as well. That would be the only concern. In the last few games, he's getting a lot of chances, but he's spurring a lot of those chances as well. So I'd like to see him take a few of those. But I guess I just wanted to say that keep your eye on Newcastle. I think Eddie Howe now, maybe it was the England job hanging over his head. Let me know what you think was the reason, because I just feel like he's looked a little bit more focused. Newcastle have looked a little bit more structured as well. And having Isak back is a massive, massive advantage. By the way, even once Wilson's back, Alexander Isak is starting every game, whether that be through the middle, off the left, or as a front 2. Isak's not getting benched for Wilson anytime soon. I just can't see that happening. But yeah, I'd love to own both of these very soon in FPL. I've got my eye on Alexander Isak probably from game week 15. But if I do want to sell Haaland soon, which is a possibility, I might even go for Alexander Isak ahead of a Jackson or a Solanke or a Watkins, because I just like the idea of owning him at low ownership. So guys, let's talk about Bruno Fernandes. I love this. Let's talk about Man United assets. Amorim beating Pep Guardiola's team 4-1. Man United are winning the league. Højlund's going to be top goal scorer. Fernandes for the Ballon d'Or. If you are new to the channel, I'm a Man United fan, as you could probably tell by now. So the next 3 fixtures are fantastic for Man United, right? Leicester, Ipswich, Everton. I just think given those fixtures, even if United still had Ten Hag in charge, it's still arguably worth targeting those fixtures. They're that good. Leicester and Ipswich are the two worst defences in the league by some distance for me as well. Ipswich are the worst. Leicester being at home. It's Ruud's final game in terms of his interim management. Then the Ipswich game is Amarim's. If you want to go for narratives, Ruud's going to want to put in an incredibly impressive performance. The players do love Ruud as well. And then Amarim's first game in charge. I just expect goals and I expect excitement in those two games. And that's what we really want from an FPL perspective. So, yeah, I imagine that Bruno Fernandes will do extremely well just based on the fixtures. In terms of the role that he's going to play under Amarim, we don't really know. There's two options. If Amarim does play this 3-4-3, he could play as one of the central midfielders, which would be a much deeper role for him. And if that's the case, creativity will be through the roof. He'll still be on set pieces. He'll still take penalties. But the goal threat, you'd imagine, will be a lot lower. If he plays instead as one of the what we'll call wingers or inside forwards, I think that position suits him more. And you could argue that he might even have slightly higher goal threat. He's basically playing as an inside forward or a slightly wide 10. Let's see, because some people are suggesting Amarim might not even play that 3-4-3 because United don't have the players for it. And that might be the best thing to do until he can sign some players in January and in the summer. But I guess what I wanted to say there are some slight doubts around where exactly he's going to play. So if you get him for the Leicester game, great. And then Amarim comes in and puts him in a slightly more defensive role. That's not ideal. In terms of the data this season, he just really has been underperforming. So 3.53 FPL points per 90. His expected FPL points per 90 is 5.25. Now, that is a combination of Bruno has missed pretty much every chance he's got this season. In fact, I think he has 0 open play goals from 2.9 open play XG. He obviously converted the penalty, but he's just not scoring goals from open play, and he's missed so many big chances. But also, his teammates are missing the chances. Garnacho has missed so many. He's created for Rashford as well. Bruno is doing so much creativity, but unless he's creating it for Rasmus Højlund, I don't see any of the players around him taking them on a consistent basis. That being said, he's only at 0.19 expected assists per 90, which is a massive drop-off from what we've seen in recent seasons. So he's not actually creating as much as we have seen. The big chance involvement is still really high, though, at 1.39 per 90. Listen, Bruno is just a fantastic FPL asset. He always has been, and for me, he always will be. That might be bias, but he's got everything. He's got the minutes, which is so critical over the busy period. He's got set pieces. He's got penalties. He's creative. He's got goal threat. He just needs to start taking the chances himself, and he needs his teammates too as well. And I don't see any indication that the players around him are suddenly going to be fantastic finishers, but I do think that Rasmus Højlund being back is a major advantage for him, because Højlund is the sort of player that you could imagine taking the chances that Fernandes creates. If I had a transfer to make, let's say something happened over the next couple of days that made me have to sell one of my premiums, or I freed up a midfield spot and I had the money, I would have Bruno Fernandes right at the top of my list of midfielders to bring in, because you cannot get a better set of two fixtures. And even the third fixture against Everton at home isn't bad. And just with everything happening at United at the moment, you're expecting absolute maximum effort and performance from the players. Will there be a bedding in period for Amarim? Absolutely. I'm not expecting him to come in and it be perfect, but I am expecting goals. And that's what we've seen from Sporting and from Amarim in his career. So I'll leave it there. Basically, I think Bruno's a fantastic buy. Do you have to break your team to go out and get him? No. Would I sell any of the premiums like Son, Salah, Saka, Palmer? No. But if you do somehow free up the funds to get him, I'll be very jealous. So guys, I thought I'd just finish up with discussing some of the best cheap defenders to buy. I've gone for 3 price brackets from 4 to 4.3, 4.4 to 4.6, and 4.7 to 4.9, depending on how much money you have available. And at that cheap price, I still think if you're looking for a 4 million defender, Vandenberg stands out to me. I don't think in the long term he's nailed on, but in the short term, his performances have been relatively good. They've got 3 good fixtures coming up. If you need a defender to start, I'd be hopeful that he does continue to, but I wouldn't be massively surprised, especially once Henry is fully fit, if they play like Henry and Rorslev at right back, for example. They could play 2 players where Sepp Vandenberg is the one that drops out altogether. So long-term minutes are a little bit of a worry, but in the short term, I'd imagine he does keep starting. Anderson and Hall, though, are just a massive step up if you can get to 4.3. Anderson is nailed. I actually think Fulham was so unlucky against Brentford. I feel like they put in a really good performance there. They just struggled to convert in terms of the clean sheet anyway. Like Brentford didn't really get many opportunities at all. They scored an absolute wonder strike. And Anderson does have a bit of goal threat. He's pretty good actually for baseline bonus as well himself, because he makes a lot of passes. At 4.3, you can definitely do a lot worse. And the fixtures over the short term are actually pretty good. But Lewis Hall would be the standout. Now, once Trippier's back, could we see Trippier right back, Livramento left back? We could. I just think Lewis Hall's been very good. Apart from in Game Week 1, actually, when he had a bit of a stinker, maybe in Game Week 2. But since then, he's really improved his performances. We spoke about how good he is for baseline bonus. His expected assist is really, really high in the top 5 for defenders in the Premier League. So he feels like a bit of a bargain at 4.3 as long as he can keep his place. And as we spoke about, those fixtures in the long term and maybe the next 6 to 8 game weeks are pretty good for Newcastle. So yeah, Lewis Hall at 4.3 is my standout in that price bracket. In the 4.4 to 4.6, I actually really like Nelson Semedo. I know 8 Nuri is the standout, but he's 0.2 more. And if you can't afford 8 Nuri, Nelson Semedo looks as nailed. He's getting forward a hell of a lot too. He doesn't have the same level as goal threat for me as 8 Nuri does. But I still expect attacking returns coming up very soon for Nelson Semedo. If you don't have 4.5, but you do have 4.4, I do really like Milos Kerkez at 4.4. This is a bit of a knee-jerk, but he started every game this season. Bournemouth are 10th for expected goals conceded this season as well. So they're a middling defence. He's got some creativity. His minutes are good. Fixtures are actually very good now coming up for Bournemouth as well. You could definitely do worse than Kerkez at 4.4. I actually think that he's one of the players that Man United might look at if we're looking to go to this 3-4-3. I think Kerkez and 8 Nuri are 2 left-backs that could suit our system quite well. So yeah, I like the look of Kerkez a lot. And at 4.6, I'd still have Colwill in that bracket as one of the better defenders. Doesn't have much goal threat. Okay for bonus points. I just think clean sheets are possible for Chelsea in this run here. In the next 4 games, they play against Leicester and Southampton. So as long as you don't need him this week, obviously not a great fixture, I think Colwill could be a really nice option. He's just a little bit less exciting than someone like a Semedo or a Kerkez. Between 4.7 and 4.9, I've actually just gone for 3 4.7 defenders. Ola Reina in third might feel low, but in the next 4, they've got Newcastle, Arsenal, and City. And Arsenal and City both away. That Ipswich game's great, but I just don't like the fixtures for Forest. I almost didn't even put Ola Reina in here because I just really don't like the fixtures. But I've put, as the title here, depends on your existing defenders. If you can rotate Ola Reina in, where you play him this week, play him in 13, and then maybe play him, I think it's in like 16 or 17, they've got an okay fixture. If the rotation works well for your defence, then go for it. But I do not expect as many clean sheets, obviously, for Forest over this trickier spell, as good as they have been defensively. My top 2 defenders then overall is probably Anthony Robinson and Ryan Aït-Nouri. I love Anthony Robinson. I almost regret selling him slightly, but I did it for a good reason. And he does continue to look quite attacking. We spoke about that Fulham are a very good defence. He's pretty good for baseline bonus as well. Not right up there with the rest of the defenders, but still not terrible. I just think he's a really good, solid shout. And he's the sort of player that you could see yourself holding in the long term, maybe even until your second wild card. Last season, Anthony Robinson had 37 out of 38 starts. So his minutes are good. He's fit. He'll play 90 every game. He's got some assist threat, playing for a decent defence. There's definitely worse options. In fact, he probably is my second or third favourite option to bring in this week. But definitely top of the list is Ryan Aït-Nouri. The man is a joke. Like, please, please, please watch the extended highlights for the Wolves Palace game in Game Week 10. He was more advanced than Cunha. He was more advanced than Strand Larsen. Like, he's genuinely playing like a number 9 half the time. It's outrageous how far forward he gets. Even when they play a 4 at the back, he still gets incredibly far forward. But yeah, when they play that 3 at the back or 5 at the back with Semedo and Aït-Nouri, they both bomb on so much. He's got 5 attacking returns in 10 games. A defender shouldn't be getting 3 goals and 2 assists in 10 games. And I know Wolves don't keep many clean sheets, but with the fixtures coming up, clean sheets will happen. Maybe not regularly, but Chuck, maybe let's say over the next 8 games, they keep 2 to 3 clean sheets, which might be optimistic, and he gets another 2 to 3 returns. You're telling me he's going to get 5, 6, 7 returns in the next 8, 9 games. That is genuinely possible and probably quite feasible as well. So yeah, I think Aït-Nouri is just so comfortably the standout. I will just note, Ryan Aït-Nouri is on 4 yellow cards. If he picks up a 5th yellow card, he will get suspended for 1 game. But the fixtures are so good over the long term that doesn't matter for me. Like, if Aït-Nouri misses 1 of the next 8, I don't care, because like I want him for the other 7 of them, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like you're only bringing him in for a few weeks. And in all honesty, I wouldn't mind him getting the booking this week, right? He plays Southampton at home this week. If he gets booked, then goes into, we can bench him for the Fulham game. It's arguably one of the harder games of the bunch coming up. So yeah, I still think he's the standout option. The 4 yellow cards wouldn't put me off. But if it does put you off or you can't afford him, there are some other good cheap options to choose from. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 11 preview. Hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, please do smash that like button. And if you've got to this point and you're not yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing as well. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.